Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. In 2004, Pixar was in the midst of a hot streak, producing one incredible movie after another. At the end of the year, we would get one of their best with The Incredibles, a fun play on the superhero genre. As with most family movies of the sixth generation, we received a video game tie-in. Specifically today, we got The Incredibles game. I recently played through it, and I'd like to share some history along with my review. All footage was captured from an original Xbox, and I'd like to thank my YouTube channel members for their support. But let's go ahead and hop into this one.
Let's send those bad boys a-flying.
The idea for The Incredibles dates all the way back to the early 90s when director Brad Bird conceived the idea. It would mull around for years, and after his big break with The Iron Giant bombed, he moved over to Pixar to work on his next movie. It's here that the idea of a crime-fighting superhero family developed and went into production in the early 2000s, being announced in 2001 as The Invincibles, although that name would change soon after. In 2002, publisher THQ struck a deal with Pixar to collaborate on all of their movie games until 2008. By 2003, the game entered production with Heavy Iron Studios, which was under THQ. They had previously worked on a few licensed games, with most notably SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game coming out in 2003 and 2004. The Incredibles game was a challenging endeavor for them because they were constantly updating plot points with the film's production, resulting in some differences in the story since both were developed at the same time, with a November 2004 release date in sight. Both the movie and game would be showcased at Comic-Con, and the game would be featured at E3 2004, with IGN hyping it up by saying it's not poop. I'll say the idea and thoughts behind movie games in this era were not very high. The production of both was completed by 2004, and both would meet their November 2004 deadline. The Incredibles movie would premiere first in October, but wouldn't get a wide release till November 5th, meaning that the game predates the movie, releasing on November 1st in North America, with Europe and Australia receiving releases throughout the rest of the month. I do really enjoy the Incredibles movie, but I have never played this game. I've always wanted to play it since it does have Xbox exclusive content, which we'll get into, so I thought now was the best time to give it a shot. Let me tell you how my experience went, starting with the plot. The Incredibles plot is extremely similar to the movie, and though the developers say it differs, it really doesn't. Of course, levels extend out the story, but the bones are still there. All of the cutscenes between levels are scenes from the movie, which means I can't show them to you. I do think showing clips from the movie is a bit lazy for movie-based games, but it's not awful. The content is there, and it's easier to use pre-existing work to explain the game. Now, having seen the movie, I can easily piece the plot together, but it suffers from the same issues a lot of movie games do, where the connecting pieces don't provide a complete story. You'll get a whole opening section tied to Mr. Incredible's first trip to the island, and then you'll get the scene of him leaving for it again. The intro of how he got there and why he's there is never detailed well. For a children's game, I'm sure they wanted to trim the fat, but let's say you never saw the movie. It's not exactly coherent. It loses nuance by cutting out what he feels is a miserable life of not being a hero, and it makes it look like a solid through line from the early days to the modern superhero era. It's not exactly necessary, but it does feel a bit odd, and it loses the themes of the plot along the way, ushering you straight into action. Now, I don't feel like this is a huge negative. It is meant for entertainment, and the game can't show you all the nuances of the plot. It just wants you to have fun. Yet it never does anything more. I feel that if there were more in-game cutscenes or some CG sequences, the game plot could have been well made, but instead it just feels a bit lazy. The Incredibles is a basic action beat-em-up game for the time. You move through different levels and beat up some bad guys. There are some variations on this, which we will get into, but this beat-em-up style is the core here. It makes a great impression right from the start, taking place in an earlier part of the timeline, in a scene that shows Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl fighting crime openly. These levels look great, and they're also well made and fun to play. You jump around from rooftop to rooftop, going over platforming sections where you jump and swing, and it feels solid to control. You beat up the bad guys, which is simple, where you just mash buttons, and it's well suited for Elastigirl, who has excellent range. These starting levels are short, snappy, and a great time. Not overly challenging, but still packs a punch. This is one of those games, though, that the more you play it, the issues start to arise. The game is surprisingly hard, but not due to good game design. If anything, it has fundamental problems that ruin the experience. Challenge is an interesting thing here, and this is for a game that I would consider a children's game, but surprisingly, this game is rated T for teen. So I guess technically it's not aimed at kids, but you know parents were still buying this for their children. For one, there is no invincibility frames in this game, meaning if you ever get hit, it's easy to get caught in multiple hits because you have an animation when you get hit that you can't move out of, and then because that's not invincible, you just get hit over and over, and that's just plain bad game design. There's also an essential dodge roll, but it's annoying to use, asking you to stop dead in your tracks, duck, then roll. Sometimes it's just too slow to react correctly with what you're dodging. Overall, the controls feel somewhat clunky, making platforming a challenge. Too often did I find that platforms were the maximum possible distance for a jump, making it so you have to jump at the last possible millisecond to make it. All of these things could have been slightly tweaked to make the game more entertaining. I do think it could have worked because the level design is there. I do like the variety in the Evil Lab hallways, islands, and city streets. There's some fun sections, such as when Mr. Incredible has to puzzle his way past multiple electrical paths. However, I found these moments to be few and far between. Many of the puzzles here have awful timing tied to them, leaving zero room for error with multiple moving parts. I like that they tried to ensure the game had challenging puzzles, but it feels like the developers didn't consider how perfect of a run you need for some of these. It's doable, as I did make it through the game, but it's sloppy and it's hardly ever fun. They're when the Omnidroid boss battles that you do multiple times and you have some unbearable gameplay. These levels are slow, and hurting one health bar of this boss feels like it takes ages, and considering that it has 3 in a row, it is long. Once again, it's doable, but I feel like it's an endurance test, and with every stage of the boss fight mainly being the same, it ends up being a tedious couple sections of the game. They at least tried to add variety to the game. Dash has sections where you run and dodge objects. These are fine, if not a little annoying. It's all about memorizing the paths you run down. Violet gets one stealth level, which once again is fine. I don't like forced stealth in non-stealth games, but here it makes sense. It's slow and about timing, but it's something different from the constant Mr. Incredible levels. I'd say it's his levels that make this game more unbearable than it should be. It's sad because if it was bad from the start, I might just think it was a bad game but forgettable. Yet the action and pacing of the intro levels were so strong that the rest of the game feels disappointing in comparison. It's a huge fall off from a game with potential into something clunky and overly challenging, either because it's extending a game that only has 4 to 5 hours of content, or it's just poor game design. Overall, it's just weak in the gameplay department. And before we move on, I should add that the Xbox version of this game does feature an exclusive level. The reason for the Xbox Live banner on the cover is for DLC. It's the Robot Battle Arena. It truly is nothing special though. You get to pick either Mr. Incredible or Elastigirl and you fight off enemies. It's based on rounds and it's an endurance test. That's all it is, and it is definitely not worth checking out or worrying about missing out on it. Also, if you're interested, this game is backwards compatible on the 360, but not on modern Xbox consoles. One positive thing about this game is the music. It uses music from the movie, which is a unique score from Michael Giacchino. Giacchino's score has a 60s retro style to it, which gives me the feeling of James Bond with a more sly style to it. It utilizes a lot of brass with blaring horns. It makes for a great backing to action and fights. It's a fun soundtrack and it works well here. It goes well with the punches and kicks that this game employs, sounds like machines being thrown all around and destroyed. It all sounds well done. The only issue with the music is that on some levels it loops quite a bit and can be noticeable, yet at least the songs are good. Though the audio for voices are pretty rough. They did bring back some of the actors for roles like Violet and Dash along with Jason Lee and Samuel L. Jackson. It feels like most of the people here recorded only a few minutes of dialogue though. In-game, these characters repeat themselves continuously and it's brutal. Mr. Incredible says the same thing about needing to work out so much that it's brutal. Dash, I think, only has 2 lines in the main game outside of cutscenes, and he says them at least every 5 to 10 seconds in his running sections, making them a slog. This is a common movie game element where characters can't be quiet, and here it is cranked up to 11. I'm unsure why these characters can't just be silent for a little bit when walking around, but instead, they feel like they're here to annoy you.
You underestimated the wrong woman. Bring 'em on!
Visually, The Incredibles is exceptional on the Xbox, and I can give it that. It supports 480p widescreen, and the scope in which the game is shown is nice. The levels have a nice draw distance to them, and the colors pop. The fidelity captured here in a movie game is nice, and it captures the soul of the animation, with exaggerated yet well-done human characters with a good range of motion. The landscapes are varied, especially in those early city levels. They capture the retro futurism of the movie well. Everything pops here, just like the great art design of the movie. The quality of the movie cutscenes is obviously compressed and a bit blocky, but they are some of the better versions of this happening on a console. Like I stated earlier, I would have preferred something new here. I think with the great graphics they pulled off in the levels, they could have made some really nice cutscenes. Though I'm just happy they faithfully recreated the movie, and the Xbox pulls it off well. It's a clean looking movie game. The Incredibles was a major disappointment for me. The first few levels start off strong and the game has a great look. Yet as you move on, the gameplay feels rushed and was not properly playtested. Frustrating puzzles, clunky controls, and slow boss battles lead to a tedious game that overstays its welcome. Throw in bad repeated voice lines and you have something that becomes annoying. I always want to see the best in movie games and some good ones exist, but this one goes into the bad category. This is a clunky game. On my original Xbox ranking list where I rank every Xbox game I've covered on the channel, out of the 114 games I've reviewed, this one enters in at 107. It's better than Aragon because I do think The Incredibles has a stronger look with nice colors, and it is a genuinely great looking Xbox game. Evil Dead edges this one out because I did find that game to be a little more faithful to the movie and offers something a bit different gameplay wise on the Xbox. According to Metacritic, this game received mixed reviews with an average of 64 for the Xbox version. IGN gave it a 6.5, saying they enjoyed the voiceovers, but found the controls to be sloppy. GameSpot gave it a 6.1, stating that it has solid visuals and good boss fights, but struggled with the poor puzzle design and short gameplay. Official Xbox Magazine writer Josh Ingle gave it a 5.2, stating that the game was too linear and repetitive and that it fell short of being heroic. Although he says that it had 15 hours of content, which I got through this game in probably 10 less hours than that. The movie would fare much better critically, receiving rave reviews and ultimately becoming an endearing film, grossing over $600 million and reaching number 4 in the 2004 box office. It would later receive a sequel many years later, showing its dominance in pop culture as an endearing movie. The game, despite mixed reviews, would sell extremely well, earning $57 million in revenue for THQ. It would receive a Platinum Hits edition on the Xbox, meaning it sold well on the Xbox, and I'm sure this game is one that many of you grew up with. Be sure to put it in the comments if you did enjoy this one, or maybe if you didn't like it back in the day. Heavy Iron Studios would make a direct sequel to this game right after this that had no movie tie-in and was based entirely on the ending cliffhanger from the last movie. It would come out the following year, and it's a game that I'll have to take a look at later. On Backlogged, it has almost 6,000 plays, but it holds a 2.8 average, and if you go into reviews, you see some people that are nostalgic for it, but you see a lot of hate for this game nowadays. But that wraps it up for today. Be sure to like if you enjoyed the review. It really helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with more retro Xbox content, and check out my second channel, Camp Extras, for more gaming content. And I'd like to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.